I'm 24 and the oldest of three. My brother Luke is 19. We've always been close. I was the one who taught him to ride a bike, helped him with math homework, and covered for him when he first started sneaking beers out of Dad's garage fridge. Our little sister, Mia, is only 13, so there's this big gap between us, but I've always felt kind of responsible for both of them, like their second mom, in a way. Everything was normal until 6 months ago, when Luke dropped a bomb on the family. He got married, to someone we'd never met. He just blurted it out over dinner, like he was announcing he'd gotten a tattoo. No warning, no introduction, just, I got married last weekend. My parents thought he was joking, but Luke wasn't laughing. He pulled out his phone and showed us a blurry photo of a courthouse and a woman in her mid-20s. That was the first red flag. She looked older, way older. Not 6 years older, but already paying off a mortgage and using anti-aging serum older. Her name was Rachel. According to Luke, she was 25 and worked in real estate. They met at a gaming convention 7 months ago and had been talking seriously ever since. None of us had even heard her name before. When I asked why he never mentioned her, he just shrugged and said they were keeping things private. But then he added something that stuck with me. She didn't want me to tell anyone. That sentence echoed in my head for days. Rachel didn't want him to tell anyone? Why? What was he hiding? Or worse, what was she hiding? My mom was freaked out, but tried to stay calm. She asked the usual parent questions. Where did she live? What did her family think? When were they going to have a real wedding? But Luke shut it all down, said she was private, didn't talk to her family, and didn't want a big deal made out of the wedding. He moved out 2 days later. No goodbye, no packing part, just gone. We didn't even know where he went at first. He just left a note saying, I'm safe, I need space, please respect that. It broke my mom. My dad tried to pretend everything was fine, but I caught him standing in Luke's empty room one night, just staring at the wall. I texted Luke every day. Most of the time he wouldn't respond. When he did, it was weird. Short, robotic messages, always the same kind of tone. We're doing great. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. We. Always we. Never I. And when I asked to meet Rachel, he said, she's not ready yet. Not ready? She married you, but she's not ready to meet your sister? Something wasn't right. About 3 weeks after Luke dropped the marriage bomb, he finally agreed to bring Rachel over for dinner. It wasn't at our house, though. He said she wasn't comfortable being at our place. So we met at this random steakhouse in the middle of nowhere, half an hour from town, off some exit that barely had cell service. I remember asking why we couldn't just meet in the city, and Luke replied with, she doesn't like crowds. That didn't sit right with me either. We got there early, and I was nervous the entire time. My parents were trying to keep it together, but I could tell they were dreading it just as much. Then they walked in. My heart dropped. Rachel looked even older in person. Not 25, not even 30, closer to 35 maybe. She had this confident, almost smug smile. She knew something we didn't. She dressed like someone who worked in corporate, heels and a fitted blazer, and had this really intense eye contact thing going. She didn't look married to a 19-year-old. She looked like his aunt. She walked ahead of Luke, like she was leading him. He trailed behind her, quiet, eyes low, hands in his pockets. That wasn't Luke. He was always loud, always cracking jokes, always the center of attention. But that night, he barely spoke. He just sat next to her while she answered most of the questions for him. When my dad asked how they met, she gave a vague answer about online communities. When my mom asked where they were living now, Rachel laughed and said, somewhere peaceful, but never gave a real location. I kept trying to look at Luke, to really look at him, but every time I did, Rachel would touch his leg or lean in, and he'd instantly shut down, like she had a switch on him. Something about her was so off. Not just the age difference, not just the secrecy, but the way she talked about Luke like he was some kind of project. She kept saying things like, he's really growing up. I've taught him so much already. She never once said they made decisions together. It was always, I decided, I told him, or I took care of, and Luke never corrected her. I started noticing little things too, like how he wouldn't order anything without checking with her first. When the waitress came over, he looked at Rachel before speaking, and when my mom asked him about college, something Luke used to be obsessed with, Rachel chimed in first. School's not really his path. He's got other talents. Then she turned to Luke and said, right, babe? And Luke just nodded, didn't even make eye contact. That's when I realized something that made my stomach twist. He wasn't acting married. He was acting owned. After that dinner, my parents tried to stay optimistic. My mom said maybe Rachel was protective because Luke was younger. My dad, always the let's not jump to conclusions type, said we shouldn't interfere unless Luke asked for help. But me, I couldn't shake. The way Luke barely spoke, the way she touched his arm, he hesitated, the weird look. I asked how he'd been dating before. That look? It was like a silent, like she knew I didn't have a word she said and was daring me to say something. So I started digging. I knew her full name because Luke had said it once in a group chat months ago, way before any of this started. Rachel W. It wasn't much, but it was enough to start with. I searched everywhere. Social media, real estate websites, public records. And that's when I found it. Rachel wasn't 25. She was 32, divorced. Once. No kids, at least not legally registered anywhere. She'd been married for 4 years to some guy in Arizona before moving back to our state last year. According to LinkedIn, she wasn't in real estate anymore. She had left that for a year ago. Her last known job was listed as freelance consultant, which basically means untraceable. I sat there staring at her photo, same cold smile, same intense eyes, and felt my skin crawl. This woman had lied to us, boldly, easily, and Luke never said a word. I printed the page and showed it to my parents. My dad was stunned. My mom burst into tears. They tried calling Luke immediately, but he didn't answer. Not once. Over the next 2 days, we sent texts, emails, voicemails. Then, late one night, I got a DM from a burner account. No profile picture, no followers. All it said was, "Stop looking. Luke is safe. Respect his choices." No name, no context. Just that. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just a weird marriage. This was control, isolation, grooming, and no one was doing a damn thing about it. After that anonymous message, I knew it was Rachel. The wording, the calm threat, the way it pretended to be caring while warning me off, it was her. I showed it to my parents, and my mom wanted to go, but my dad wasn't so sure. He said, "Luke's technically an adult. If he wants to be with her, there's nothing we can." That's the part that kept messing with. Yes, he was 19, but he didn't feel like an adult anymore. He didn't sound like himself, didn't act like himself, and now, apparently, didn't even live like himself. We still didn't know where he was staying. Every detail about his life had become this foggy, unreachable thing, and Rachel was the one keeping it that way. But I wasn't letting it go. A week later, Luke finally responded to one of my texts. It was short. Just, "We're fine. Please stop digging." I asked if we could meet, just the two of us. I said I missed him, no pressure. He said okay. I chose a diner we used to go to as kids, hoping the familiarity would help him open up. He showed up 20 minutes late, wearing all black. Same hoodie he wore in high school, but thinner now. His hair looked greasy, like he hadn't showered in days. His eyes were sunken in, pale skin, lips dry and cracked. He looked like someone halfway between sleep and survival. He sat down across from me and barely touched the coffee. I tried to keep things light, asked about his favorite games, his music, even joked about mom still crying over burnt lasagna. Nothing. He just gave these tired, practiced smile, nods, one-word answers. Then I asked how married life was. He flinched, not dramatically, but it was there. A small twitch in his jaw, a quick glance at the door, like he was worried someone would be listening. I leaned in and said, "Luke, you can talk to me. If something's wrong, you don't have to protect her." He stared at me for a long time. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. "I'm not allowed to talk about our fights." That exact sentence. Not, "we don't fight." Not, "it's private." Just, "I'm not allowed to talk about it." Aloud. He didn't even what he'd said. He just stared down at his coffee and started rambling about his new routine, how Rachel was helping him grow, how she had rules to help him stay focused. He sounded rehearsed, like a script. Every now and then, he'd look up at me with this flicker of something, almost like he knew how insane it all sounded, but it was like he wasn't allowed to feel it out. And then his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his whole face changed. Panic. Like real fear. He stood up and said he had to go. Didn't even wait for the check. Just walked out. No hug. No goodbye. Just gone. And that's when I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't just toxic. It was dangerous. After Luke walked out of that diner, I sat there for almost an hour, just staring at the empty booth across from me. My little brother, who used to beg me to sneak him extra fries, was now acting like a shell, like someone else was puppeteering his entire personality. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. My brain kept looping through everything he said, and didn't say. Especially that line, "I'm not allowed to talk about our fights." That wasn't a normal relationship sentence. That was something you say when someone's watching you, when someone owns you. The next day, I texted him. I asked if he was okay, if he wanted to come stay at my apartment for just to decompress. I said Rachel didn't have to know. He didn't reply, but a few hours later, I got another DM, different burner account. This one just said, "Back off, last warning." That's when I stopped caring about the rules. I had a friend from college, Sierra, who works in cybersecurity. She's helped me out before when I lost a phone or needed to trace spam calls. I asked if she could help me dig a little deeper into Rachel. I didn't say why, just that I had a bad feeling and needed to know more. Sierra got back to me in 2 days. Turns out Rachel had changed her legal last name 2 years ago. Before that, she went by Rochelle Whitmore. That name rang a bell, so I searched it and found a thread buried in an old forum about age gap. It was about a woman named Rochelle who had a pattern of dating young men, barely legal, isolating, and cutting them off from their families. Someone even mentioned that she had once been investigated for manipulation and coercion, but the guy refused to testify, and the case went nowhere. It was her. Same face, same smile, same cold eyes. At that point, I knew I needed help. I couldn't fight this alone anymore. So I went to my parents with everything. Screenshots, public records, the message logs. My dad still didn't want to believe it. But my mom? She snapped. She said, "We're getting him out." And that's when she told me something terrifying. Luke had come by the house a week earlier, just for a few minutes. While my parents were out, our security camera caught him on the porch, but he wasn't alone. Rachel was in the car. She never got out. She just sat there with her sunglasses on, staring straight at the door. We pulled up the footage from the porch cam. Luke knocks, waits, then checks his phone. He's pacing, nervous, looking back at the car over and then, clear as day, we see him mouth the words, "I'm sorry." He never rings the doorbell, just leaves a small package and walks away. I went outside and dug through the storage box we keep. The package was still there, tucked behind a spare propane, wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside, a single flash drive, no label. I took the flash drive back to my apartment and stared at it for a solid hour before even plugging it in. I don't know why. I guess part of me was scared. Scared of what I might see. Scared of what it could mean. Scared that I was about to cross a line I couldn't come back from. But more than anything, I was scared of what I already suspected. When I finally opened the only file on it, it didn't even have a name. Just a timestamp from a few nights earlier. It was a video. Shaky at first. Looked like it was recorded from a phone. The footage started in what I assumed was Rachel's apartment. Dim lighting, beige walls, some cheap-looking furniture. Then the camera steadied, and I saw Luke. He was sitting on the edge of a mattress. No bed frame, just a mattress on the floor, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt, hunched forward with his elbows on his knees. He looked exhausted, like a shadow of himself. And then Rachel's voice came in, off-screen. She wasn't yelling. She was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm that makes your skin crawl. She kept repeating things, over and over. "You embarrassed me again today, Luke. You still don't understand how much I do for you. I'm the only one who truly cares about your future. If you tell your sister what happens here, you'll ruin everything. I swear." I stopped breathing. Luke never responded. He just sat there, nodding slowly, eyes on the floor like a scolded child. At one point, she walked into frame, took the phone out of his hand, deleted something, then shoved it back at him. "Say it," she snapped. And he did. "I'm lucky you married me." I paused the video right there. I couldn't watch anymore. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. It was like watching a cult leader break someone down in real time. Except this wasn't a stranger. It was my brother, and she had him completely under her control. The worst part? You could see he knew it. Somewhere in his eyes, buried under the fear and fatigue, there was this flicker of shame. He wasn't brainwashed. He was trapped. I called my mom and told her everything. I didn't even bother softening the truth. I told her he was being emotionally abused, manipulated, isolated. I told her Rachel was dangerous. She started crying, said she was calling a lawyer, and then she asked me to send her the video. But I said no, not yet, because there was still 10 more minutes on that file. And if Luke left this for us, if he risked her wrath just to get that flash drive to our doorstep, then I had to know what else he wanted us to see, even if it broke me. I sat there in the dark, laptop screen casting that awful, sterile glow, cursor hovering over the play button. 10 more minutes. 10 minutes that I knew would change everything. But I couldn't pretend I hadn't already seen enough. Still, I hit play. The video picked up again, but this time the angle was different. Like the phone had been placed somewhere discreet. It was sitting on a desk or nightstand, facing the bed. Luke was lying down now, curled up on his side. He looked so small. I don't know how else to describe it. Just small. Like someone who didn't know how to exist in his own skin anymore. Rachel walked into the frame, holding a tablet. She was calm, smiling. That same smug smile I saw at dinner. She said something like, "I'm proud of the progress you've made," then sat down on the edge of the mattress and started reading from the screen. At first, it sounded like a list of affirmations. "You are lucky to have someone guiding you. You would be lost without me. No one understands you like I do. You don't need your family anymore." But it wasn't the words that chilled me. It was the way Luke repeated them, slowly, monotonously, like he'd been doing this for weeks. Like it was routine, like it was normal. Halfway through, he stumbled on one. It was something like, "I accept punishment because it helps me grow." He hesitated, paused, looked up at her like a scared kid waiting to be slapped. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. She just leaned forward, close to his ear, and whispered something I couldn't fully make out. And then, he flinched hard, like she'd shocked him. He started again, louder this time, and finished the sentence. She patted his head like he was a dog, and then she left the room. For a solid minute, it was just silence. Luke alone on the mattress, breathing heavy, eyes darting toward the camera like he wasn't supposed to know it was there, but did. And then he spoke, not to her, not to himself, to me, to us. Very softly he whispered, "If you're seeing this, I'm sorry. I wanted to leave. I tried. But she said if I go, she'll hurt herself. And then she said she'd hurt you." I froze. He looked directly into the camera. "She said she knows where you work, where Mia goes to school. I don't think she's bluffing. Please don't confront her. Just make sure she doesn't find this." The camera cut off right after that. I sat there, absolutely still, every muscle in my body tense. She'd threatened me, threatened our little sister. She knew exactly how to keep him under control. Not with chains, not with bruises, but with fear. Luke wasn't just stuck. He was being held emotionally hostage, and he knew it. And that flash drive? It was a cry for help. I didn't sleep that. I couldn't. I just sat there with the flash drive in one hand and my phone in the other, scrolling through every old photo I had of Luke, just trying to remember who he really was. The kid who used to tie towels around his neck like a cape. The one who once stayed up all night helping me write a college paper he didn't even understand, just because I said I was overwhelmed. That version of him was gone, but not lost. He was asking for help now, and I wasn't going to waste that chance. The next morning, I sat my parents down and showed them the full video. I didn't censor anything. I needed them to see how deep this went. My mom didn't even make it halfway before she ran to the bathroom to throw up. My dad, who'd been skeptical about all of it from the beginning, just sat there in stunned silence. I think seeing it, hearing Luke's voice, his apology, his warning, finally cracked something open in him. We knew calling the police wasn't enough. Luke was technically an adult. There was no visible violence, no broken laws, just manipulation, control, grooming. And in situations like this, the system's slow. It waits for bruises, hospital visits, body bags. We couldn't wait, so we came up with a plan. We needed to get Luke out without Rachel knowing it was us. That meant making it seem like he wanted to leave, like he was making the choice. The only way she'd let him go willingly. So I called in a favor. My friend Sierra, the cybersecurity one, connected me with a private investigator. Not the shady kind either. This guy was legit, discreet, ex-military, quiet but sharp as hell. When I explained the situation, he didn't hesitate. Said he'd handled domestic emotional containment cases before. That's what he called it. Emotional containment. Sick, right? We gave him the video. The burner messages, the porch cam footage, everything. He said he'd need a few days to track them, confirm the address, and figure out her routine. I was terrified the whole time. Every hour that passed felt like one more mile between us and Luke. But then, on the third night, I got a text from the PI. Got them. Address locked. She leaves for yoga on Wednesdays. Alone. 90-minute window. It was Friday. We had 5 days. 5 days to plan a fake emergency. 5 days to convince Rachel to leave the apartment. 5 days to walk into that house and get Luke out before she even knew he was gone. We had everything planned to the minute. Sierra handled the fake emergency. She spoofed a call to Rachel's phone from a number tied to her old office, claiming there was a legal issue with a past client that required her immediate attention. We crafted it so carefully, even adding a fake voicemail trail in case she tried to verify it. Our PI confirmed she left the apartment at 9:11 a.m., sharp, just like she always did for her Wednesday yoga session. That was the window. 90 minutes. We moved fast. My dad stayed in the car, engine running. I had a spare hoodie and duffel bag for Luke. The PI waited a block away in case anything went south. My heart was pounding out of my chest as I ran up the back stairs of that apartment complex. The hallway was dim and smelled like bleach. Door 3C. I knocked twice, our signal. Waited. Knocked once more. Nothing. Then I heard the softest shuffle, like someone inching toward the door without wanting to be heard. A click. The door opened. It was Luke. He looked worse, like something had drained him completely. His cheek was bruised, faint but visible. His hand trembled as he held the door open. He didn't say anything, just stepped back and let me in. The apartment was cold, sterile, too clean. No photos, no clutter, no life. He pointed to a bag already packed by the couch, like he'd been ready. I whispered, "We have to go. Now." And that's when he stopped me. He turned, face pale, and said, "She knows." I froze. He said Rachel had been acting strange the last few days, locking her phone, keeping the blinds closed, asking him if he'd heard from me again. She'd gone through his emails, his trash folder, his call history. She knew something was up, but she didn't confront him. She was waiting. And this morning, right before leaving, she said something chilling. "If I come back and you're gone, I'll make sure your sister disappears before anyone can find her." That was it. No yelling, no anger, just that calm, collected threat. Luke's hands were shaking as he told me he was scared, more scared for me than himself, and that's when I made the hardest decision of my life. I told him to go without me. I handed him my spare phone, gave him the PI's number, and told him to get in the car with Dad. No matter what, I'd stay behind, just for a few minutes, because someone needed to finish this. Someone needed to face her. He begged me not to, but I saw something in his eyes. Relief, because he knew I would, and he knew I. Luke made it out. I watched from the peephole as he climbed into the back seat of my dad's car, and they pulled away. No hesitation, no second guessing, just gone. And then I sat in that silent apartment, waiting for the woman who had slowly turned my little brother into a ghost. I didn't even move. I just sat on the edge of her pristine beige couch, duffel bag still at my feet, hands folded in my lap, heart hammering so loud I thought I might pass out. But I kept my face calm. Exactly 12 minutes later, the front door opened. Rachel walked in like nothing was wrong. Keys jangling, hair in a tight ponytail, her yoga mat tucked under one arm. She looked right at me and stopped. Her eyes narrowed. Her smile twitched, tightened, but she didn't flinch. She closed the door behind her, locked it, and set her mat down slowly. Then she said, "Well, I was wondering when you'd finally show up." I didn't say a word. She walked around the room, taking in the space, the bag by the couch, my presence, Luke's absence. And then she asked the question I'd been waiting for. "Where is he?" I smiled, told her the truth. "Far away from you." She stared at me like she was trying to decide whether to laugh or snap my neck, but I held her gaze. I needed her to see that I wasn't afraid of her anymore. Then she did something strange. She sat down across from me, crossed her legs, tilted her head, and said, "You think you've won something here, don't you?" I didn't answer, because this wasn't a conversation. This was a warning. She leaned forward, voice low, cold. "Your brother needed saving long before I found him. I just gave him structure, something you people never could." I clenched my fists, nails digging into my palm, but I still didn't react. She smiled wider. "You can take him back, but I promise you, he'll come looking for me again. They always do." I stood up, reached into my pocket, and placed a small recording device on the table. It had been running the whole time. Her face dropped, just for a second, but it was there. That crack. That moment she realized she didn't control this room anymore. I leaned in and whispered, "This isn't a game, and you won't hurt anyone else." Then I left, didn't slam the door, didn't run, just walked out. The PI met me 2 blocks down. I handed him the recording, and within 2 hours it was in the hands of a lawyer who specialized in protective orders. Rachel hasn't contacted Luke since. She moved out of that apartment less than a week later, disappeared off social media, changed her phone number. I don't know where she went, and honestly, I don't care, because Luke's safe. He's been staying with me and my parents, slowly rebuilding. He's in therapy now, real therapy. He doesn't say much about what happened, and we don't push. But the other night he sat down next to me on the porch, handed me a soda, and said, "I didn't think anyone would come for me." And that's when I broke. I didn't cry the whole time this was happening, not once. But that moment, I did, because that's what she stole from him. Not just his freedom, not just his identity. She made him believe he was unworthy of rescue, but she was wrong. He's home now, and no one will ever control him again.